Order. Go at 8:03. Welcome everybody. Good morning. Open it up for public comment. Do we have anybody from the public on Zoom today? Okay, hearing no one, I will close the public comment and then ask, did everybody have an opportunity to review the minutes? And if so, ask for approval of the minutes or a motion for approval.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any discussion? Any opposition? Okay, minutes are approved. And we'll go right to you, Dr. Chong, for an update from you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I think the big news last week was I announced my retirement, and it's effective in the summer sometime. We've already begun a search for the new replacement, and I just want to thank all of you for all your support and foundation. We've gone through a lot in the last few years, and you've all been stalwarts and really keeping the college steady, and I really appreciate it. I have 7 months and 30 days left, but I'm not counting. Steve knows about that. And so I plan to be fully engaged. I'm not going to be that engaged in the search process. It's really the tradition that the sitting president doesn't really kind of handpick or really try to influence the board and who they choose. And so I'll be afar, but I'm always available to advise. There's already interest in my position because it's such a good college, such a great community to live in. We'd be hiring only the 6th president in 104 years in the community, so at the college. So I think you guys have had an opportunity to weigh in terms of characteristics and what you'd like to see in the next president, which is that's the board's really open to listening, but the board of trustees only hires one person, and that's the president. So this is their process, but they're going to be seeking community input, and I'm sure from input from people like you as well. So it's really incumbent on us. If you hear anything about the candidates or know anything good, bad, and indifferent, let the board know, because they're going to be making the decision. On some other programmatic fronts, we're looking at increase in enrollment this semester, close 3.9, close to 4%. We're thrilled about that. So I think the bleeding is so-called stopped, and we're working very aggressively to increase our enrollment and keep it moving northward. How high it can go, nobody knows. But we are not unlike other community colleges around the state and the nation, if you've read about it, that have experienced some significant drops during the COVID. And then we had the fires previous. So we sort of had a double whammy. But I'm convinced there's still a lot of people out there who can benefit from attending SRJC. So I think that's pretty much, things are going pretty well at the college. There's been, people are entering midterms. They're getting into the winter. They're just trying to resettle back into the first semester, really being live on campus. And it's been pretty much without incident. On the building front, we're very, very excited. I did a tour of the science building and of the dorms recently, and it's going really, really well. They're both on schedule and on budget. And then, of course, I'll let Jay talk about his new digs, and that's coming along really well. So we have a lot of great things going on. I went to see Stand and Deliver, and it was wonderful for those who saw it. And then the SpongeBob, the musical, is coming. I think that's kind of Steve Page's humor. And so I encourage all the board members to go, and maybe we can go on one night and make it an evening or a matinee for us oldies. So I'll stop there. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have about the college. Appreciate it. Thanks.
I do have a comment. This is Shirley. And I'm just passing along, because I promised I would in this meeting, from a couple of community members, their disappointment about the news that they were canceling the community classes, continuing ed, whatever. So,
Right.
so I said, I mean, they were very disappointed, and I said, well, the college is really having to look at what we do and how we fund everything that we do. And I'm sure that they're going to look for ways to, start those again or whatever. But somebody I know is taking, I forgot whether it's Italian or I forgot which subject. Anyway, I've had a couple of comments, and I just said, I will pass along your concerns. And so I've now passed them along, and that's all I need to do.
Well, I appreciate that, Shirley, and we anticipated that. And I probably have Erin Bricker develop a second follow-up to all of there's about 750 community ed students at the college, and that's being 1,500. That's not a small number. And what we decided to do was that it was a money loser, and in our state ed code, in order for these type of programs to subsist, they have to be either money neutral or making money, which many community colleges are having a hard time doing these days. So we're going to, as you said, we're going to make a lot of these classes free. People don't have to pay, and there's a way to get funding for it through the state. We don't get as much as we would for a credit student, but we would still get some funding. So our new Vice President of Academic Affairs, Robert Holcomb, is working on a plan. We're already moving some of the classes to older adults. We're moving some into community ed, but during this transition, we are going to have to cancel some that we can't find instructors, or there's very little interest in. So I assure you that we're not abandoning our clientele. There's going to be changes at the college prior to me coming on that I hope will smooth out things for the next person, and from a financial standpoint. But I think in all, it's going to be kind of neutral. And we're looking to actually expand in those areas, because we looked at our demographics, and there are a lot of seniors who want to learn Italian, but they don't want to take Italian for credit. So we can offer these classes through the older adults program and through non-credit, but it's going to take a little time. And I think we will do a follow-up to say we've heard from the community people's disappointment, but be patient with us. We will be working on reinventing the program rather than eliminating it. So thank you.
But one of these people had passed on the memo that she got as a student, so I think another memo to those people would probably be a good idea. And what she happened to make a comment was that the professor teaching the class got the same email notice that she got, and was not told ahead of time that, that the spring and fall or summer, whatever, were canceled. So she just felt the message was a little, she thought she was disappointed, but she also was disappointed that her professor said that he also had heard about it, or whoever the instructor, whatever the person was. Oh, anyway, okay, that's enough for me.
I appreciate passing that along. Yeah, no, that's fine. We'll address it. Thanks.
So I think another email would be a good idea too. That's
okay. We'll do that.
Yeah.
Well, and maybe look at the cost of those classes. I know I've taken them, and they're very reasonable. So if they aren't making money for the college, maybe increase the fee. I don't know if that's a possibility, but if they're a lose, or from a business perspective, you wouldn't want to offer those classes. But certainly, if they could charge more to make it at least a break even.
Yeah.
We're going to talk in a minute about the conference and sacred cows. And I think what we're starting to say here ties right into that. So,
right.
Okay.
And I did
it's a pertinent example.
Yep.
Before we do that,
one thing I was going to add to Dr. Chong, your comment about the enrollment at the conference, with Susie's going to talk more fully about. There was a slide on, I think it was at the legislative session, of just declining enrollment in community colleges and colleges overall. And the one slide, and I thought I took a picture of it, but I can't find it. It was very politicized also, the chart they had showing just the negativity about college right now, and encouraging open thoughts and ideas and exploration of students, allowing to think and explore ideas. And it was pretty dramatic. I'm going to try to see if I can find the slide and share that with you to see how it really cut red and blue, and it was pretty staggering.
Yeah,
But yeah, it was across the board, which was a surprise to me to see that overall in college enrollment has been down the last several years.
absolutely. And there's a lot of reasons for it. We don't have enough time to talk about it today, but I think we should devote some time to talking about it at a regular meeting, because I think it's important for the board, the foundation board, and for my board of trustees to understand this phenomenon that's going on and this trend that's going on that's very, and I would say anti-college, or college doesn't need it. And so it's a very interesting narrative that's around the country, and it's certainly having an impact on our enrollment. And we need to develop strategies on how to counter that narrative, but I'll leave that for a broader discussion. But thanks for bringing that up, Teresa. That's really important. That's why it's so important for trustees and for foundation board members to go to these national, I worked with CASE when I was in Washington, D.C. They invited me to speak there because it was a chance for foundation directors and for foundation board members to really see what their colleagues are going through around the nation. And it's really fascinating. So I'm glad the three of you had a chance to go, and I encourage that you maybe send every year send a number of our foundation members to CASE.
It was really so informative and well worth it. I'm really glad we went. And with that, unless you have anything else to add, Dr. Chong, I'll pass it to Susie to give us some case highlights.
I think that was a good introduction. Like I said, I went to CASE many years, and when I saw it coming up this year, I asked Jay, I said, it'd be good for you to go, and since you're relatively new to community college fundraising, and to bring a few board members. And he did that, and it sounds like you guys had a wonderful time. Somebody had to do the tough duty and go to San Diego, Santa Barbara, wherever you guys were.
Anaheim.
Yeah, Anaheim. Okay, yeah. Well, good. I'm glad you went. It's good team building too.
Right. Thank you.
I support and echo all those comments, Dr. Chong. So I'm going to just hit at a very high level, but in case you're not familiar with it, CASE is a capacity building organization for community colleges, universities, et cetera. And one of their key things, in addition to having all kinds of resource libraries, et cetera, is that they put on conferences all the time, all over the country. In fact, I'm sure there's one happening right now somewhere, but the one that we attended was focused specifically on community colleges and fund development. And I would say, could you guys guess how many people were there? Did they ever announce the enrollment, the attendance? Probably a couple hundred at least.
I think there was about 300 was the number I had heard.
I'm a former promoter. If you'd asked me, I would have said there were 10,000.
All right,
Yeah.
good to know.
There were 10,000 attendees, and it. I was only in attendance for the first day and a half, and Teresa and Jay stayed for the equivalent of another day. So they may have some things to add, such as this enrollment observation that Teresa just made. But for the parts I attended, they fell into 4 categories: getting rid of sacred cows, which was the keynote address, foundation board effectiveness, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and an interesting session on cryptocurrency and how it works and what it means if we're interested in accepting donations thereof. The Sacred Cows keynote really focused on events, the Sacred Cow events that many colleges have been doing for months, years, decades. This resonated with us because of our current conversation underway about the trusts and the staff investment time from the foundation that goes into supporting the various fundraising events, polenta feeds, golf tournaments, extravaganza, et cetera. So there was not as much on change management as perhaps, at least I was looking for in this keynote, but it really boiled down to understanding your return on effort as opposed to your return on investment. And what that really means is, what are the true costs of putting on these events? We do not currently capture all of Brianne, Jay, Sarah, and other administrative costs in the foundation office and quantify them into dollars invested when we look at how much these various events net. Typically, it's just the hard expenses of renting a facility or something like that. So there was, you know, a lot on just understanding that. Also, as you're communicating this to people who might be resistant, to have a really specific plan on how you would replace the funds that used to be garnered by these events. So that was the first one. And I think Jay and his team are already talking about how they can start to capture some of their costs associated with supporting, in particular, events as part of the change management around the trusts. Board effectiveness was a topic of a couple of workshops that Teresa and I attended, and got lots of just good tips on ways to approach board diversity, tools for board evaluation and effectiveness, onboarding your board members, and a lot about board meetings themselves. What should be on your agenda? How should you be spending your time? And then finally, some other comments about consolidating and streamlining your committees, getting board members more involved in campus activities so that they really have a personal experience of the campus. And so that, I think Jay and Teresa and I are meeting early next week before the next board meeting. And we're going to be talking about some of our learnings and perhaps identifying some specific tactics or activities that we might want to launch. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Heard some very inspiring presentations. There was one from Las Positas College, which is in the Livermore area, where coincidentally, the foundation CEO or executive director and the college president went to high school together. They are both Black men. And so they go way back, and they have a level of trust that is evident and a level of friendship, but it means they have been joined at the hip and in lockstep about moving forward. And it really raised the important question of ensuring that the foundation board's strategic plan is in alignment with the college's strategic plan. And I believe the college is, am I right, Jay? The college is in the process right now of updating their strategic plan, which had not been done when we did our first strategic plan a couple of years ago. So we just put our strategic plan together independently. But this next one that'll be coming up in the year after next, I think, we'll be really looking to understand what the college's initiatives are and how do we align and support those.
But even though we haven't maybe seen that, I think, Susie, to your point, we have aligned when we have said this is what the college wants us to raise money for, so I think, at least we're on the right track there.
I agree, Shirley. And I think what may be the layer beneath that is, particularly in this diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging arena, is how do we integrate that view, that culture into everything we do in the college and in our board activities, communications, the way we interact with each other. And some of the board effectiveness suggestions speak to that. And it's sometimes as simple as storytelling. That best practices around diversity and about building relationships is we need to hear each other's stories. So there was a suggestion that at the start of every board meeting, there either be a icebreaker or some opportunity to start to get to know each other and each other's stories. And that can break down artificial barriers because we're connecting as people. And so that can start to move a culture in a non-threatening way, in a relationship building way.
Interesting.
At our North Bay Leadership Council board meetings, our Cynthia, who's our runs the organization, sends out a question in advance of the board meeting that we go around and everybody answers that question so that you're you're dealing with a similar subject and people are bringing their own perspectives to it.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's,
That's
Yeah, I
really
know.
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, one
Yeah.
of the other suggestions on board meetings at the conference was to meet early, to open it up to meet like, even 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes beforehand for people to mix and mingle and spend that time getting to know each other a little bit better before the meeting starts, because then once the meeting starts, we're down to business. So that was, I thought, a really good idea also, was to have a little bit more of just board social engagement to get to know each other before a meeting, and then everybody's already geared up to go to the meeting, and so it's on their calendar. And even if it's another 15 minutes, they talked about reducing time so that the amount of time you allow for meetings to, like, instead of a half hour, 20 minutes. And so I thought that was a really great idea.
Yeah.
Also,
In fact, any of you who ever attended the Los 100 lunches back in the day when they still met in person before it went to Zoom, there was a half an hour before the meeting started, and there was a lot of mix and mingle going on. And, with
That similar with North Bay Leadership Council, when
Yeah.
we have met in person, we have morning meetings and there's coffee and, breakfast stuff that is available a half hour before the actual meeting starts, and people show up, and there's a lot of dinner.
food is always a draw. That's a good suggestion.
Why? Since we meet in the afternoon.
That's true. So I'm hitting just the very high level here, obviously, but the last one that I attended was on cryptocurrency. We got a, what do they call it? The fire hydrant, explanation of what it is, how it works, but I think a couple of key takeaways for us. Number one, cryptocurrency is classified by the IRS the same as stock. It's property the same as stock. So it could be, should we choose to accept crypto, it could be processed the same way, accepted at fair market value at time of donation, and then immediately sold. However, the donors experience capital gains tax on all crypto if they liquidate it. So just like stock, if they donate it at fair market value. So there is a real incentive, and most wealthy donors, especially young wealthy donors, do own crypto, and usually their donations are anonymous. So it speaks to just making it visible in your externally facing collateral, that if you do accept currency in your donation, crypto for donations, make it visible to the world, because you may not be getting a phone call from somebody saying, I want to donate to you. They're just looking to see who in education might be taking crypto. And then they went over some various tools that you can use should you choose to accept crypto, on how to process it. Some that charge a higher fee do it all for you. Others, lower fee, you have to do more of the work yourself. We can explore some of that and find out actually whether Greystone Morgan Stanley already has something in place that we might be able to link into. So we're going to follow up with them. And of course, no matter what we decide, we will need to update our gift acceptance policy to address the issue of crypto. Teresa or Jay, was there anything either on the topics I touched on or that I missed that you would add?
just an interesting kind of metric is kind of back to the sacred cows, that 1 extra hour a day of getting rid of attending meetings for polenta feed planning and golf planning. 1 extra hour a day could equal up to 400 new contacts, because time was the comment was that I had circled. Cornerstone is time, and so having that extra time, and I think that Jay and the team proved that during the pandemic, that they could, without having to spend those hours going to those meetings and doing event planning instead of fundraising, they could raise the same amount, if not more, dollars. So that was just a really good nugget on that whole sacred cows. There's a lot more, but in the interest of time for today, I may add, Susie, to you at the board meeting for the sessions Jay and I covered after you had to take off. But
Okay.
But so I think maybe in the interest of time, we should move on to the balance sheet.
But so we need to tell them that actually you and I just went to Disneyland. We didn't really do the rest of the conference.
That'll be interesting to get a report on Disneyland too. We need to be informed about all activities.
We did go to downtown
We
Disney
did.
on Thursday night for dinner. That was our only time we went over to Disney. So just one other thing that I was so valuable, and it was great to have Teresa and Susie. Everybody was so impressed that I brought 2 board members with me. There were 10 college presidents there, but there were the rest of them were in New York. But the one other thing that was valuable for me, there were 2 sessions that were about transitions to new presidents. The one that we attended regarding La Placitas was basically, it was about DEIB, but it was also about transitioning to a new president. And then there was a whole nother session, the Cuyahoga Community College in the Cleveland area. They had a very detailed, which Teresa and I both went to, which was really valuable. So things that we can, and I've already talked to Dr. Chong about some of this yesterday when we met. So it was well worth the investment, and I really enjoyed spending extra time with Susie and Teresa.
It was great. And just a reminder, Jay and Teresa and I are meeting before the board meeting. And so we may have some more details to share that you haven't heard this morning when we decide what we want to focus on for the next year or so.
I think that'll be great because if you come up with, 3 or 4 concrete things that you would propose that we should do differently, like starting the meeting 15 minutes ahead of time to socialize or whatever. I mean, summarizing for all of us, because a lot of the folks, that'll be helpful for them, for all of us.
Agreed. All right, well, great report. Thanks, Susie. So should we go to Kate?
Yeah, before I get into the report, I will say in negotiations, at one point we were struggling, and we did not an icebreaker session, but kind of that get to know you session, and just humanizing each other, we have found just goes a long way. So I love that idea. Okay, so on the balance sheet side of things, on the financial statements, just an update on the audit. We do have our draft audit report. It is a clean audit again this year. We're finishing up our management discussion and analysis and get that back to them, and we will have it for you in not this board meeting, but likely the next one. We should have them to the December Board of Trustees and then to you guys right after. So I think everything's looking good there. On the financial statements, so these you have in your packet for August 31st. They're our first ones of the fiscal year. On the asset side, we did see a decrease in assets, mostly just changes in the income and expense that I'll talk about. And then on the liability side, they did decrease by about $475,000, mostly for just payables from year end as we paid them, and then recognition of SRT prior year unearned income for their ticket pre-sales. On the income statement, total income to date, $2.16 million. Most of that is a $1.88 million increase in scholarship contributions, recognition of the $213,000 in prior year unearned and current year income for SRT sales, $52,000 in other income, and then some interest income. For expenditures, we had $1.2 million in scholarship payments, and then about $500,000 in admin and other operating expenses. So nothing too crazy this month. Any questions? Okay, thanks.
All right, I'm going to share my screen here. So this is the foundation operating budget through the end of August 31st. It's still very early, but we do have most of our revenue in, as we do every year. That's the 2% that we charge on the foundation endowment administration. So we have over $1 million there. Very little other expenses. The president's address, there's $34,000 there. That's really just a carryover from last year, which is probably good to have that a level of revenue now, because the president's address will be a much different event this year. It'll be a big celebration for Dr. Chong. So it looks like we're probably going to have it in the Dutton Pavilion. It'll be an evening event. And just so we can accommodate a lot more people for that celebration. So we're working on a budget right now, but it's good to have that additional revenue there to help cover expenses. Salaries.
I'm sorry, is the Dutton Pavilion at Shown? Is that what we're talking
It
about?
is, yes, Shirley. Yeah. So what's happening there is, they're going to do extravaganza on May 13th. So
Yeah.
they have to lay the floor in the pavilion. And we said, well, just leave it there. Don't take it up at the end of your event. We'll use it again. And because it's really the only venue that allow us to accommodate 500 or more people.
Okay, I was just wondering, that's all. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are not many expenses on the employee side or on the operations side, just again, because it's so early. So if you just go down to the bottom here, there was that $200,000 prepayment to the district for cash flow purposes. So the one thing I wanted to point out is that in the salary, in the employee salaries, it doesn't include, we've been talking about adding a new coordinator to the foundation that would support me and, work with all our various constituents like the board and our scholarship donors and the trust. That position is not in this budget. It just, we weren't able to afford it. And I'll show you when we get to the 5-year forecast, I'll show you what that looks like. Any questions about the operating budget? Close that. Someone had a question. I just lost the 5-year forecast. So do you have it in front of you?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just gonna stop sharing here and just go back here and I'll get out my hard copy. So yeah, the 5-year forecast, normally just bring this to the budget committee. And that's something I wanted to actually point out. I apologize to several of you who are, just went through all of this at the budget committee meeting. And this is one of the things we were talking about at the conference, some of these committees that do a lot of the same things and there's a lot of overlap. So we want to look at that. I have combined the budget committee and executive committee at times. I should have probably done that this month because it's basically a lot of the information is the same. So we'll look at that moving forward and, we may decide maybe we don't need this committee if all this work's going to be done at the executive committee level. So it's something that we'll look at. But the 5-year forecast is something we normally look at just in the budget committee. But I wanted to show it to you as well, because just a couple of things I wanted to point out. One, it's the only place where we forecast 5 years. The first column, which is 22-23, that's basically the budget that you just looked at. That's it. That's what the budget was approved by the board for expenses of total expenses of 1.407. So that's the budget we're operating with right now. Next year, you'll see an additional drop in the endowment administrative fee. I mean, we have no idea what's going to happen with the market. I mean, it's been up and down. It's up again, but we're currently forecasting that by the end of the year in June 30th, we'll be down another 5% overall. That's something I want to confirm with Greystone. And of course, they don't have a crystal ball either. But I always ask them. There is an investment committee meeting tomorrow, so we'll get an update from them and see what their thinking is about the next several months. But that's a big impact because that's additional, because we still rely on our operating budget, still relies so heavily on that 2% endowment administrative fee. I want to point out the support fee. I didn't do that in the year to date. There's no revenue that's been booked there yet. However, we're currently in the process of making our first assessment of the 3% fee. We're going to do that quarterly after reconciliation. So I've reviewed all the gifts. Rebecca generated the list for me. Sarah and I went through them thoroughly because there are some exemptions we talked about in some cases. especially right around year end. There's some big gifts that came in that we've exempted because we hadn't really introduced the idea of the 3% yet. So I feel like this program's going to take off a little bit slowly until everybody's up to speed about the policies. But it looks like we'll be assessing the first quarter about $15,000 in revenue. That includes the contributions and the 2 events that we just did, which I'll when I do my foundation update, I'll talk about the events, but we're assessing 3% on the events as well. So that's
Jay,
about $15,000 revenue.
Has there been any pushback from any of the donors on that fee?
No, not yet. I mean, I still feel like they really know about it. Our big test will be, we're about to do a solicitation of scholarship, the folks who have in-out scholarships, and we'll let them know about it. Because we'll give them the opportunity to donate the extra 3% if they want the full $1,000 to go out for their scholarship. I think that's where we're going to hear from some folks at that time. But that's one of the things that I didn't get to talk to a lot of other community college folks at the conference because I was with Susie and Teresa a lot. Although we often sat down with other people and talked to them, but I talked to the gentleman who's a consultant right now for Napa Valley, and they recommended that Napa Valley also is launching a support fee, as many community colleges have already done or currently in the process of doing that. So, but that's going to be, I don't know if we'll get to that $90,000 this year, because we had, for instance, I think we had about $2 million in donations over the first couple of months, but we only assessed the fee on about $400,000 because a lot of the money we received there were pledges. We had a couple of big we had a $500,000 pledge for the housing project. So obviously we're not assessing 3% on pledges or pledge payments from pledges that we had previously. So it'll take a while for us to catch up with this. I think those are the main points. You'll see at the bottom line, though, the 5-year forecast, we're looking at in the future, potentially deficits of $100,000. Now it's very early and we'll continue to make adjustments. Obviously, we won't bring $100,000 deficits to you each year to approve. And as you know, there's a lot of one-time expenses this year for our move and whatnot. So we're looking at a small deficit this year. But a lot can still happen on the revenue side. And obviously, and I think we have, we have, feel like we have a little more control on the expense side sometimes than we do on the revenue. But are there any questions about the forecast? Susie?
I just wanted to make a reaction comment. And I absolutely get it that we're dealing with a lot of uncertainty on the top side, on the revenue side. But there was such joy about creating the Opportunity Fund. And this forecast indicates that we won't be able to support that going forward with this forecast, So I think there's a strategic question about whether we want to intentionally build in a surplus to the way we budget such that we can always fund the Opportunity Fund. I don't know. I just think it's a question to struggle with. I also have been in, look at what happened with HP Keysight, things are wonderful when they're flush, and when things really change, you have to make very hard decisions and stop doing things that are much beloved. So it may not be possible, but that was my gut reaction was, oh, I hate seeing those goose eggs on the Opportunity Fund.
I know you're absolutely right. And I think I had said at one point that we would have been able to fund the Opportunity Fund one more year in the year we just ended, and we had a big surplus, but then after the investment loss we experienced at the end, it wiped it out entirely. So that was a big disappointment. I didn't feel like we were going to be able to fund the Opportunity Fund through the surplus in years moving forward because of this forecast. So I guess the question is, how else might we fund the Opportunity Fund?
Exactly.
Have we talked before?
Another thing I'd like to jump in about the Opportunity Fund is there is excitement about giving it out, but I think it's important to look at a year out. Have they spent the money? Because oftentimes we're seeing the grants and people love it, and then they get busy, and so I think it'd be well worthwhile to look back and look at, and I'm looking at Kate and others who could track this, is see how much they've spent of it and what they used it for. And it might sometimes be good not to do it every year, but every other year, so people can make it seem like it's not an entitlement, but something that is special. So that's just something from experience past.
Dr. Chung, you're absolutely right. And even though we gave those 6 entities $15,000, I check in with them periodically to see, some of them aren't spending it. I mean, I intentionally made a connection with the new person running the Native American Center, just to make sure she knew about the funds. And but QRC has just started to use some of theirs. DRD is doing the best job, and Kim's, because you've got Kim Starkey at the head of that. So, but you're right. It's not just about giving the money away. It's then making sure it gets spent well, and that we have stories we can bring back to encourage future giving. But just to give you an example, yesterday, and this will give you another example of how we are implementing DEI on a daily basis. I received an email from the woman who runs our transfer program, because it's a big time for students to start filling out applications for transfers. And it was a communication that went out to the college-wide, just about encouraging people to get more information about it, to support students through this process. I instinctively knew that one of the barriers to that is students often can't afford the fee to apply to UCs or CSUs. So I reached out to the coordinator and said, is this a problem? I'm assuming it is, because it's been my experience with like 10,000 degrees and other programs, and it absolutely is. And they need anywhere between $5,000 to $14,000 a year just to help students with the transfer fees. So there are lots of examples where we could, step in and fill gaps on a yearly basis if we had that money in the Opportunity Fund.
Jay, is that something that you or Kate could give summary of, maybe at the board meeting, of how those, which funds have been used and which haven't, what the balances are?
Another suggestion, Jay, would be, as we do in some other organizations that Susie is certainly familiar with, is if you give money to somebody, you say, and we want a written report in 3 months or 6 months or some number, so that you don't always have to be reaching out, but you tell them, I'm going to want, part of this in taking this money is you need to give me a report, whatever you want to say time frame is, as to how the money is spent. And the other question would be, in terms of, and maybe I've asked you this before, in terms of funding the Opportunity Fund, a lot of us have scholarships that could perhaps be changed to fund the Opportunity Fund, as versus just one more scholarship, because there's so many. Have we done that already? Have I already done that?
No, we haven't had a chance to talk about it, Shirley, but yeah, I'll talk to you about that.
I mean, not just Shirley, but I mean, others.
Well, I don't want to, you have an endowed scholarship. I'm not going to start unendowing scholarship funds to put it into the Opportunity Fund. That's just not.
But is there a way to change the endowment instruction that the money, instead of going to a student, gets to go to this Opportunity Fund?
Possibly. Yeah, possibly.
I'm just thinking about all these scholarships that maybe there's some people who, if you were to approach them, would be happy to, because I agree with Susie. It's such a wonderful opportunity for us to do something like what you just talked about the transfer.
Well, and what I appreciate about you, Shirley, is that you've changed your estate plan now. So when when that money comes many years from now.
But that's hopefully a long time from now, or immediate. You won't even be there when that happens.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We hope.
All right. Any other questions about the 5-year forecast? Okay, I'll put that away. So just a quick foundation update. The most exciting thing, Dr. Chong alluded to this, is we have very specific dates now. We're getting close to year end, and they're going to be installing our furniture on December 6th and 7th, which is really close now. And we've arranged for a move. We're going to move from where we are now to 707 on December 14th, which is a Wednesday. IT is going to come in the next day and get us all set up. So we'll be functioning in our new space as of December 15th, which is kind of perfect timing because it's right before the holidays and other people are, it gives us time to unpack the boxes and do all that while the people are kind of focused on their holiday celebrations. And then we'll come back full, at the beginning of the new year, we'll kind of be up and really running. So that's really exciting. The PG&E, the one concern was the installation of the utility pole. They said they would come on November 3rd. They were here several days early. So it's been installed. They were really happy to see that. I drove in one morning and there they were. And I thought, what a joy to see PG&E there installing our utility pole.
Is there something that we should do as a board, maybe at the January meeting or something, to have a little commendation or something to whoever it is that's been responsible for all the work in getting our building to what it did and on time or whatever? You don't have to answer my question now, but I'm just thinking it's always nice to really do something kind of formal to thank somebody who has been helpful to us in getting something done that, we really appreciate.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Resolution or something, you can send them in the mail or something to the team, or I don't know. But anyway, whatever you think. But
yeah, there'll be plenty of people to thank, particularly our court, the capital projects individual. Her name is Amy. Maybe we'll have her come to our January board meeting, but we are going to do an opening event. We'll wait till March to do an opening event. So we'll have it. It's going to be very ceremonial. I'm thinking of doing a live, a live land acknowledgement and having some of the POMO people come and do that. We can do a ribbon cutting. We'll thank all the construction folks, everybody involved. We'll acknowledge, Maria, the artist, will be there. We'll unveil the mural that day. We'll do a lot of things. But you'll all be in there for the January board meeting. So we can just start incorporating some of this into.
Well, and maybe that's a good idea if the person in charge of the thing just came to the January meeting and we can just all give a big round. Just to say thank you to people, I think is nice.
Yeah, and then some of the things that Teresa and Susan and I'll be talking about when we get together, we'll probably, we can implement them come January. Because one thing I've been saying is moving into the new building is an opportunity for us to do some things differently, reintroduce ourselves to the community, really take full advantage of this new space.
And one thing, that was raised at the conference, to tag onto that, Jay, that I loved was a thankathon. One of the colleges, they said that they'd called with, no expectation. It was just to thank their donors. And that, created a lot of goodwill for one and donations, but it was just to thank them, not to ask them for any donation whatsoever. And then one of the other comments was like to start and end your day with a thank you card. And they related to the Jimmy Fallon. I always get the Jimmys mixed up. Jimmy Fallon, how he does his thank you notes. And I'm doing a thank you note, which I thought that was great to do, to just send out very simple thank you notes. So more on that maybe to follow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So the other two quick updates I want to give you are related to the event. So, we did the golf tournament. We grossed $50,000 on that event. We netted 20,000. So yes, this is one of the events we're going to be doing the full accounting of and for the future and adding in staff time and all that to make an assessment of that, a full assessment of that event.
Jay,
yeah.
Question, when you're doing the assessment of events like that, is there a way to quantify what the value of the community gathering, just in terms of visibility and people in the community interacting with folks from the college? Because I think some of those events, the financial, the bottom line is only part of what the value of the event is.
Friend raising.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's true. But one of the things they pointed out at the conference was they're really encouraging everyone to make sure your events are really mission-based, mission-driven. And they raised the question, what does a golf tournament have to do with your mission? So do things that are really going to tie people more closely to your mission. And because I think probably the best opportunity for fundraising for the athletics is the Hall of Fame, And that's the one event. It's not a fundraiser. They're just putting it on and honoring people. But so maybe we just have to shift our emphasis on some of these things.
Well, having been, you know, an avid golfer and college president for the last 15 years, I do envy my colleagues like at Rio Honda and other places where they raise a net over $100,000. I don't see why we couldn't do that at the JC. I think it's because it's been run by the athletic department. They really don't focus on that. It is friend raising for them. They like to raise some more funds, but I think now that the foundation's established better trust and working relationship with the athletic department, I don't see why it can't be lucrative as well as raising friends for the athletic department. JC folks, which people know it's a very strong alumni group there. Kind of like, I'll use the example of Jill McCormick in swimming. You know, once Jay got, you know, Jill's trust, they were able to do some wonderful fundraising opportunities. And I don't see why we couldn't do that for the golf tournament. I'll enjoy playing it in the future without having to worry about raising any dollars.
Do we teach golf at the college?
We do.
I didn't think there was a golf program at the college.
There's not a golf team. People have expressed an interest in bringing it back. But you know, that was one of the things we could no longer afford to do because there's like a softball team has 30 women and a golf team has 6. So for Title IX, a golf team doesn't really help much. I'd love to bring it back being a golfer, but that was one of the difficult decisions we had to make. Well, and people in the golf community in Sonoma County are not happy with us about that decision. But
It just seems like there's a lot of competition for golf tournaments. It seems like everybody's having a golf tournament. Well, no, I don't want to talk about it, you know, but anyway.
Yeah,
Let's
so
think
the other
about it.
event was in Petaluma on September 23rd. Completely new format for them. It was very mission focused, like the 50th anniversary we did for Schoen Farm last year. But they grossed over 100,000, about 101,000, and they netted 70,000. So kind of I think a better return for the effort. But again, we weren't including staff time and all that, so we'll be doing that in the future there as well. We're well into planning for Extravaganza, which is going to be on May 13th, 2023. And then June 1st will be President's Address. So we'll have a lot going on at the end of the year. And again, as I said to you earlier, the President's Address will be a much bigger undertaking this year because of Dr. Chong's retirement. So that's my foundation update. I'll have more, you know, at the November board meeting, I'll have an update for you on our contributor revenue through, I can do that probably through the end of October. I'll have a report on you for 4 months. I know through August, we were a couple $1 million, which is $1 million ahead of last year at this time, but that was only for the first couple of months. So I just wanted to talk briefly about the November 17th board meeting to kind of remind you. So Greystone will be coming to this meeting. It's kind of their annual update. And the investment committee meets tomorrow. So we'll be talking about this there as well, because I'd like the board members on that committee to just, I'm kind of interested in what do we want them to come and talk about? There's so, you know, obviously there's the ESG piece, but, you know, and I think that I've had a conversation with Marion, and he thinks it's probably time to revisit the whole issue around fiscal responsibility and our relationship with Gray. So that I think people have to be reminded again about our relationship with them. And we've given them a lot of discretion, yes, but where does the fiduciary responsibility lay and all that stuff? It would be a good reminder for the board. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about that as well.
I had a conversation with Marion at the Petaluma event, and he was holding forth on that topic. I wasn't sure I completely understood his point, or more importantly, what he thought we should be doing that we're not doing. So I think giving him a chance to maybe air that out and go into a little bit more detail on what the his recommendations are going forward would be important.
Yeah, he'll have that opportunity tomorrow at the investment committee meeting. And we had that conversation, but that's why I put it on the agenda of the investment committee as well.
I think there's always interest in understanding how our financial performance measures up against our other key constituents,
Mhm.
other similarly sized organizations, et cetera. So that's something that's been asked for by board members in the past, and I assume it's typically part of what the investment committee sees because we're looking against benchmarks. But I think that is something at a high level would be important for them to report.
Yeah. Yeah, I normally give them about 20 minutes and then leave 10 for question and answers, but I'm happy to give them 30 minutes if they need that this time. I think there's been so much going on with the markets and everything. I think everybody is just a little, nervous and maybe would like a little more information from them. So
maybe a review or kind of a tutorial at a very basic level about our asset allocation policy and how our funds are invested from a risk return standpoint and how our policy addresses that, trying to optimize that balance.
Yeah, and Greystone is bringing a proposed revision to the investment policies tomorrow, and so we'll bring that to the board as well, so that they're up to date on that.
And perhaps just if people are nervous with the market, to calm anybody who might be uncomfortable with the market, that this is a cycle. They, as you said, I think earlier, Jay, they don't have a crystal ball, but maybe they can, give some projections going forward of where they see where the market might go.
Especially for us retirees.
that are checking every day or several times a day. Steve?
You're going to be right there checking the stock market.
Dr. Chong will be very interested in that.
I'll have more time. Hopefully.
So I also just wanted to, I don't know if Kate's still there, but Kate, I appreciated your email earlier today. Just wanted to give you all a heads up that we will have some people at the November board meeting who will make some public comments. As you know, we've been getting some feedback. This is about the scholarships, and there's some departments, STEM faculty in particular, math and I guess chemistry, mostly math is the one I've been hearing from the most. So they're want to come to the board meeting, but I want to remind you all that it's not it's not a conversation we're having with them. It's like any meeting. They have an opportunity to make a public comment, and we thank them for their comments. And and so Teresa, I can kind of go over all that with you, but I don't know, Kate, if there's anything more that you know or can share.
Not really. Tim had just reached out to me because I'm chair of the Planning and Budget Council, and he wanted to take it there. And I told him the foundation wasn't within their purview. And so if they want public comment, they could.
Yeah, so they'll each have up 3 minutes to comment. And again, it's not a conversation we'll have at that meeting. Okay. And then just some other quick business. Tomorrow, we were able to reschedule the recognition dinner for Doug Pavesi, and when we had to cancel it because of the heat, it's hard to believe it was so hot at one time we were canceling events. But and we decided to reschedule it. We wanted to keep it small and just make sure Dr. Chong was there, the two committee chairs, and then Teresa as the chair and Steve as the immediate past chair. A couple of spouses come. It's about 10 people, but it is happening tomorrow night finally at Cabianca, and we have a nice plaque for him. And we're also going to give him the opportunity to make a $2,500 grant to the program of his choice at the college. And then, but I didn't calendar a governance. I apologize. I was trying to get this agenda done before I headed out to Anaheim. So we can't take any action, but I wanted to just let you know, Susie and Teresa and I've been talking about, we went back and looked at the bylaws, and there is room for one other person to be on this executive committee. And so we had talked about, we had an interest in talking to Carrie Rigo to see if she'd be interested in coming onto the committee. She's the one board member who's not really on a committee. She's served in an ad hoc way many times on different things, but she's not on a committee. So we had that conversation with Carrie. She would be very interested. Again, we can't vote on that today, but if you're at least, I mean, I could bring it to the board meeting for approval on November 17th, if that's something that you're all amenable to.
I would support that.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I'll put that on the November 17th budget calendar. So a quick update on the trust. Susie mentioned this a little bit earlier. So that's what I've been doing primarily since I came back. So there is an ad hoc group that's been meeting to talk about the proposed changes to our strategic plan that involve the trust, some bylaw changes that would need to be made. And we've had 2 meetings now. We met again on Monday, this past Monday, because we wanted to talk about any information we brought from the conference. So I'm at the point now where I'm setting up meetings with the chair and the vice chair of each trust. I started that yesterday. I've got the first meeting scheduled in Petaluma. The vice chair of Petaluma is not available, so I've invited Maggie Fishman to join that meeting with Monty Sullivan. So basically sitting down with the chair and the vice chair, just to let them know the conversations we've been having and the plans to restructure them and not have them be standing committees and kind of just to give them a preview of what's going to be discussed at the November 17th meeting, so they don't hear about it for the first time on November 17th. And then I did have a conversation yesterday with an attorney with the company that we use. I always forget their name, Kate, but College and Legal Services.
School and College Legal Services.
Yeah, so we had a conversation yesterday. She's reviewing our bylaws. There's also a document we've created around the restructuring, some of the messaging around that. So she's taking a look at that right now, and she'll make some recommendations as well regarding the bylaw. She didn't see any problem with it. Just, I said, look, we just want it. These will no longer be standing committees. We'll have ad hoc committees to produce an event for them when we do that. She didn't see any problem with that at all, but she just thought we might want to write something about these new support groups into the bylaws. So that's what she's going to be focusing on. So hopefully I'll have all those meetings next week. Teresa and I are doing them together. Teresa, I appreciate all of your time very much.
Of course.
But we'll do that. And then, so again, by the time we get to the November 17th meeting, there won't be too many surprises. There are other people that have been very involved with the trust, like Steve Olson with Ag and other people like that I need to talk to as well, just to give them the heads up as well.
And so I think since you've spoken with the legal counsel, Jay, is the intent still to bring a bylaw change to the November 17th board meeting?
Yeah, so that was a valuable piece that at the meeting on Monday, it's going to, instead of bringing it all to the November 17th board meeting, it'll be in 2 parts. So the first bylaw edit will be, because we have this funny thing in the bylaws now that says we'll bring a list of all the committees and their responsibilities and all of that once a year to the board at the very first board meeting. So any changes we want to make to committees can only be done once a year at the July board meeting. So we're going to change that first of all. So it doesn't say we can only do it in July. And then in January, we'll bring the bylaws update, because right now in the bylaws, it talks about standing committees and it calls out the trust, and then they're listed in an addendum to the document and what they do and all that. So all of that will be removed because they'll no longer be standing committees. So we'll bring that update to the January board meeting, and then these changes will be effective as of January 19th, when I'm assuming the board will approve this. So from that point forward, these groups will be operating differently. We won't wait until July 1. And part of the conversation Teresa and I will be having with them next week as well is that we are going to be taking a thorough look at all the events and their true cost and doing that real, kind of return on effort or return on investment analysis. And the other thing that I appreciate about the feedback the committee gave is that the document we've created very clearly states that the foundation will make these decisions regarding events moving forward, not the trust. I mean, the trust technically won't exist anymore. So they won't have the authority to just say, we're going to do extravaganza again. I mean, that's a decision the foundation will make, obviously working closely with the deans and people on campus.
Once we adopt these changes in January, will they actually be recognized in any way as ad hoc committees, or will they be outside of our bylaws and they're simply created on an ad hoc basis as we choose to do so?
Well, ad hoc committees aren't currently part of our bylaws. I mean, specific ad hoc. I mean, I bring that list to the board each year with a list of all the standing committees, ad hoc committees, and it's approved by the board. We typically do that in July. So yeah, that's where we list the ad hoc committees, like personnel. Sometimes it's strategic planning. Sometimes it's, we just formed one recently for, to review the trust, which was not a committee that was on the list in July because we didn't know we would need that when the year started.
And the Randolph Newman, right? That's
Randolph Newman's listed
Randolph
there
Newman.
too. Yeah, that's an ad hoc, yeah.
Mhm.
So these would be friends of.
Yes.
So that's the language that's going to be used. Friends of Petaluma campus, friends of athletics, friends of ag.
Yeah.
Is that what we said? Yeah.
Yeah.
So they'll be formal ad hoc groups. It's not clear yet how much structure they might have in terms of chairs and vice chairs and policies and procedures and things, but definitely moving them to a friends as opposed to a standing committee.
And Chris Shear pointed this out. There's language in this document that we've created around messaging. It's the very first sentence that says we're doing this to simplify the governance, remove the liability. I've been concerned about liability because we've just not been in compliance with these trusts around the Brown Act. We don't get their agendas. Happened again the other day with ag. Their meetings tomorrow when we got the agenda like yesterday. So just removing all of that as well. And of course, we'll tie it to this larger conversation the college is having about things we need to stop doing or re-examine and do things differently and more efficiently. But I had a meeting with PJ Lococo yesterday. She's the new chair of ag. We were talking about extravaganza. I told her about the meeting we're going to schedule with her next week. I told her kind of high level what it was about. And, but I know, there'll be pushback here as well, right? Because especially from BCAT, because they're the ones that have been I think the ones not as connected to the ag we've been really well connected to them in Petaluma as well. But BCAT has been, they're off doing their own thing most of the time.
Unfortunately, Chris is a member of that.
Yeah.
So we've got somebody in the room.
Yeah, but she's very supportive of what we're doing. And in fact, she declined to be part of the meetings with BCAT because she feels she'd be better used after when they start responding. She can then help them understand it and play her foundation, wear her foundation hat, but not be in the initial meetings with them, which is fine. Teresa and I will do those. So one other quick update, I want to remind you all that there are a number of listening sessions with the search firm to get input. There's one specifically for the SRJC Foundation and broader community. We've invited all of the board members and all the members of the trust to that convening. It's on Friday at 10 a.m. and a Zoom link was sent out to you. So I hope you have it. I hope you'll participate. It's only 45 minutes long. So, want to make sure we get in all of your input as possible.
I think
All
it's
right, so-
great they're having those sessions. So I
Yeah.
think that would be very helpful.
Yeah. So the last thing I have, unless there's any other business anyone else wants to bring up, I just want to talk about the next meeting because of the way the calendar works, I mean, our next meeting would be on Wednesday, December 28th. Which doesn't seem like and I think, the college is closed that week, right, Dr. Chong? So I think last year, or at least one of the year, we've just canceled the December meeting. I don't know how you feel about that, but there's a lot going on.
I think you should cancel it because of the timing of it, and give staff a break like so you can spend your holidays, not have to worry about keep preparing for a meeting. I think you deserve either.
We'll
One
be
of the
unpacking
suggest-
boxes.
Would
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I'm totally supportive of that. And obviously, if something significant comes up, we can convene in response to it. But I don't know that's only happened, I think, once since I've been on the board. So
Yeah.
let's.
All right, very good. Everyone agree with that? Kate, I know you don't disagree. All right, everyone. Well, that's
Anything else? Did anybody have anything else? Okay, well, good meeting. Okay, I think we're then adjourned.
Thank you, everybody. Nice to
Thanks,
see
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Take
All right,
care.
have a good day.